All right, welcome back to Free Game Productions, Out of the Cave. I got a friend of mine who I couldn't be more impressed with, especially after seeing this shit, man. We got Sean Ashcraft, the owner of Camp Wabong, Camp W,
Camp W, yeah.
who Danielle and I have stayed in this cabin, actually. Yeah, I guess you could call it a cabin, right?
Yeah, this is a cabin.
Like a little house cabin.
Yeah, it's like a little tiny house.
And just hung out with the kids and watched him make fire and a million other things. So as we get started, I guess the first question is, Sean, how did you get into camp? I know you kind of told me a little bit of it, but how did you get Camp W, and what is like your ultimate goal with this?
Right. So Camp W was part of a progression of my career in wilderness-based education. So I had worked in pharmaceuticals for a short period of time out of college as a biochemist, and I recognized that it just wasn't for me. Went back to school really just for my deep passion base, looking to have fun and explore and really dig into the adventurous side of life, like wanting to get paid doing the things that I like really usually would pay to do.
Right.
So worked with adults for a bunch of years I had an international climbing school. We did all high altitude mountaineering.
Is that why you got the rock mountain right there?
Yeah. That was one of the things that I brought from that. And I'd take people kayaking around the world, sea kayaking. We'd do whitewater kayaking, all sorts of long canoe expeditions, and working with adults. I feel I started to feel like all of my clients were effectively running from something. Like they were all running from home. Like they needed something to fill them back up so they could go back into the muck and slog through life. And when I became a father, my two sons that are now 13 and 11, I started to recognize a deep desire of mine to start to break the cycle. Like trying to find ways to show people or show other humans that we can move through the world in a way that brings us joy and fulfillment. Like the idea of work. Like it's not really work. It's just that maybe profession. And I built a reputation. This place came up. A dude from a men's group that I was in years prior to was like, dude, what are you doing for the next couple hours? I need you to come with me right now. And a couple days later, I took this place over.
So, and I give this a proper introduction. This is a wilderness school.
Yeah, it's a wilderness-based school, heart connection, focused camp.
So it's super cool. Like you come in, it's in Brattleboro, Vermont.
Mm-hmm. Brattleboro, Vermont. Yep.
Brattleboro, Vermont. And you come in, and we're in one of the few cabins that have 4 walls. The kids are sleeping with like 3 walls, like in the starlight. And then Sean mentioned, you got your 2 children, Oliver and Julian. One of the coolest things about this is the way the kids interact. Like they have, we were talking about it earlier. Right. They all have like real conversations. They look you in the eye.
Right.
And they speak openly, and they like hold themselves with like proper posture when they're speaking.
Yeah, their shoulders are back. They're looking in the eye, like their head is up.
It's really cool. So it's a wilderness school, but it's like a life school. And then obviously Danielle and I do ceremonies quite often. What Sean said with like the heart school too is we did yesterday is we walked around blindfolded in the woods. Mm-hmm. And then Sean had them express like their senses and like how they're connected and honoring the earth and honoring the connections and their intuitions and the other senses that aren't necessarily termed as senses, but
right those feelings that activity was called a Drumstock. So in that, the idea is to just explore the way that we move through the world, and like I got to towards the end, that reminder that we're in it for each moment. And it's important to remember in our daily lives, we forget so easily that it isn't about that certificate. It isn't about that end goal. It isn't about that car that I'm saving for. Like the reality, those things are great. But if we're always looking in the future, then we're going to miss hundreds of details every day that have the potential to bring us joy or enrichment through connection with other people instead of blasting past someone to get somewhere. It's like, taking that 5-10 seconds to just acknowledge the other person as you go by, and maybe a conversation will happen, maybe it won't, but those feelings and those senses that we were exploring out there, by removing sight, it heightens the other pieces of our bodies. It's, if you remove your vision, then your hearing perks up, the sense of touch perks up, and the gut, that intuition space where there's, especially for kids, that feeling that can come when you're in proximity to another living thing or another object. I mean, everything's living, even a rock, it's moving. We just don't see it really, but
right, the vibrations.
So learning how to harness those kinds of feelings within our awareness, it brings comfort. Like, it puts our body into congruence, and it really brings an awareness for the kids that everything matters. Like, all of the movements that we make in the world matters. That ripple effect, it matters. That person that we stop to say hi to and connect with and look in the eye, they might have been on their way to fall off a cliff somewhere, and we just added a ripple that brought them back from the depth.
Right.
You just never know.
The breaking point for
people. You just never know. So it's always worth it. And it also could be that person or that experience that changes the course of my life or the kids' lives in another direction, where they might be shooting for this certificate or whatever, this long-term goal, but it might be a pivotal moment where they recognize something different within themselves that then changes the course of their future.
The physicist that we had on our show, I can't remember how to pronounce his last name, Daniel, sorry, Daniel, if you're listening to that, can't get your last name again. But one of the things he said that so Sean's background is
biochem and molecular biology.
Super smart. But we had a physicist on here, and again, we're talking about with Reiki healing and stuff. And what he was saying is interesting. Mm-hmm. When you were talking about intuition, my synesthesia kicked in, which hasn't kicked in a bit. Mm-hmm. I saw like pink on your cheek, which would be like, it's like a really good sign. Mm-hmm. Anyways, but what he says is, like, when you give energy or love to somebody, that's like one of the things that defies conventional physics, because the more you give, the more you get.
Exactly. The more you give, the more you get.
Whereas like with food or in the physical world, the more you give something, just generally speaking, the less you have.
Right. Right.
But those non-extinguishable entities,
right?
I guess entity would be a good term. The more you give, the more you get. Mm-hmm. And we were talking yesterday too, which was super cool. So Sean was giving us a couple different tours, and he just explaining your knowledge of the herbs and recognition was super impressive, which we'll get into in a second. But we were walking into the bees, and you were explaining about the frequency of the bees, and then we kind of got into the ripples. You want to, so how have you noticed with the bees? So he pulled down a beehive from a tree, like the ladder's still over there, and then put it over with his other bees. So how come the bees didn't attack you? I mean, I know because you told me, but like, for the person listening.
So, preface this as I'm an amateur beekeeper. I've been doing it for the last 7-8 years. Definitely amateur, right? That's it's a life pursuit. But through the years, reading and exploring with them, they respond in a very real way to our energy. In some ways, I feel like it's almost like a horse. You're around certain animals or certain insects, and even actually infant humans, like young babies, have an awareness that we kind of grow out, like we learn, we're boxed out of as we grow through our traditional schooling systems. But they know when you're scared, and they're like, what the fuck is this person doing here? Like, this can't be good. If this person's scared, then something's going on. Where if you interact with them or around them with a sense of appreciation and gratitude and love, they'll come on to you, you know, like if you put your hand into their hive, like sure, they're going to come on to you, but they don't sting you. Like they're not going to attack you. It's not a threat. They are exploring, right? So they're uh, effectively, when we're approaching them with that love, it's the same frequency or the same resonance that they are uh, in their hives. So we're kind of like just an extension of their home space because it's a comfort, like a comfortable frequency for them. So when I was up in the tree, and I have to admit, there was at one point, I mean, I'm 40 feet up in a tree,
I'm afraid of heights.
holding on to a ladder with one hand, like looped around, saw, cutting down the branch, getting ready to catch it. It has 40,000 bees because the bees had just swarmed the day before. So there was a piece of me at one point that was totally like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, what am I getting myself into? But it quickly, you know, this is the emotional awareness piece, you know, like quickly recognize that and be like, hey, no, it's going to be okay. Like, these are my friends and I'm just here to protect them and give them a new home. Right. So that energy change and that acceptance that I'm here with them as a steward. At first, there was a branch bump when I was in my oh shit moment, and a couple of them came over, and you can tell like they're like agitated, and they sound different. But as soon as you breathe into it and settled in, right back to the swarm, no big deal. Like they're just right here with you, following you down, and it amazes me every time I go to check the hives. When I go to check the hives, when I breathe into it, take a couple minutes to really find my center, my gratitude, my love, my appreciation for them, and what they help us with in the land here, you know, pollinating all of our plants. They literally just come up to the edge and are like, hey.
Yeah. And then and we spoke about it yesterday too. Their frequency, like their buzzing, helps people with depression, right?
Big time. Yeah. So that's something that I've been reading a lot of studies on recently. That there's been a number of studies that show that beekeepers have generally a longer lifespan than people that aren't beekeepers, but also within some PTSD-based groups, and there's a group of folks that are ex-Navy SEALs, or not really ever an ex, but like a Navy SEAL that's not active duty anymore, or Special Forces, other folks that are in really high-stress military situations that really find it hard to integrate when they get back home. My friends have started incorporating medicine, things like ayahuasca, and non-medicine based things like breath work and whatnot, but they've also started incorporating bees and beekeeping into the mix, and have found some really tremendous results in just spending a few minutes around hives each day. Has lifted people from depression that has really been deeply rooted for years.
And then what is the effect of grounding? Like, what is the scientific effect of that? So that's when you take your shoes off and walk around.
Yeah, touching the earth, right? Yeah. So, well, there's big name like Joe Dispenza. We'll talk about this a bit too, but effectively with shoes, we are isolating our body from the earth. So it's protecting us, or it's eliminating our actual connection to the earth. If you can imagine our bodies, this is just one way to think about it, as just a big electrical pulsing unit that's doing its thing. You know, our heart is operating through electrical impulse, our thoughts are electrical impulse. And then there's also the pieces within our cells and our blood that things are constantly moving past each other and creating like different charges even within that. You know, it's almost like taking a balloon and rubbing it on your head, creating static electricity. Like we get out of balance, we create static electricity effectively, and it pulls in a direction or like in a way that is not natural for us.
Is that what that is? Is when you're out of balance, when you get the static electricity, like when you touch something?
I mean, it's not necessarily that. I'm thinking.
No,
more
I
like
don't mean to sidetrack you. Yeah.
But it's not necessarily just out of balance, but that idea that you end up with extra charge or a way to not get rid of it. So when you touch something that after you've done the balloon thing, you get that discharge. And that electricity that's stored in your body is, and it shoots to whatever you touch. Because our body doesn't want it. Our body doesn't need it. It needs to get rid of it. So taking our shoes off allows the electrons and all of the energy to actually flow and discharge the things that we don't need, like the extra, as well as come into resonance with the earth. You know, the vibration that the earth has, the Schumann resonance, it does have an effect on our body, and being able to touch the earth brings all of our body into play. I mean, if you can imagine, we've been around for not just 100 years kind of thing, right? We've been around for a long time, and shoes kind of just came around in the last 100 years with rubber. We evolved barefoot. So our natural process involved discharging unused, unneeded, extra energy into the earth. And the earth is that bank. It's like with a house, why they pound in that grounding stake outside to hook your electrical to is because we need a discharge. So taking our shoes off grounds us, just like our houses are grounded when we need to plug things in.
And I've my buddy Taylor had this thing you'd stand on and it would shake you,
Mm-hmm.
and it would like release the. I would go to him with it after jujitsu,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get like itchy in your crotch area,
Right.
your feet, and he said that's where you're releasing the most toxins.
Right. Yeah.
Your feet. So I'm assuming that was an evolutionary.
Yeah, down to the bottom. Yeah. Yeah, it does. It helps, and it really makes it. I mean, you've seen me. I walk around barefoot at
All
least
day.
once a day.
Yeah.
And by once a day, it's just kind of all day.
Yeah.
At least during the summer, we'll go out in the winter, cold plunge, be barefoot, things of that nature. But scientifically, taking your shoes off for 2 minutes outside can loosen your red blood cells will be clumped a lot of the times when we're wearing shoes. If you look at scans, you remove your shoes, they'll spread out like natural. And if you're looking at the electrical currents within your body, they measure this.
So when they loosen, does that mean like your blood flow is better?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, blood flow better. So it's dramatic for your cardiovascular system, right? So like when people get clogs, they put stents in. If you don't have a bunch of clogged up junk in your blood, it's like you're not moving old motor oil. If you're able to move that fresh, free-flowing kind of stuff, then you're not going to have the same problems. So it's dramatic. And that electrical current, it's measurable. Within 2 minutes, that off kind of, our head might be going in one direction, our body or heart might be, a different frequency, different ways. Shoes off, 2 minutes, everything lines right up. It's measurable. They've been doing it for 40-something years. It's really amazing.
Yeah, it's wild how some of this stuff is almost considered woo-woo.
Oh, it's totally woo-woo,
but the
it's
science
not.
is so like
Right.
It's so incredibly like definitive.
Right.
And so I mean that's the beauty of what you're doing is like you're teaching these kids like hard physical skills, building fire in the rain.
Right. Hell yeah.
And which on a side note, it's not just the building of the fire, or not the making of the fire, it's the building of the fire. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
Which I learned today. Because I've made a fire before, but building it. And I used like a cheat. Like we, shout out to Chad, right? But he showed us, but we had like a cotton ball with like petroleum jelly, and then we had like little sticks, and it just kind of caught easier. But today we used birch bark, and then the little, what do you call it?
The ferro rod?
Yeah, the ferro
striker.
rod. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was super interesting.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to me, like how, again, I'm assuming, so you have dreads.
Oh, yeah, I've got dreads.
For those that are just listening and not seeing the video.
Yeah.
But you have a hard science background.
I do, yeah.
So I have to imagine that there is a constant, you're just good vibes.
Yeah.
That's like the first thing I ever said to you, but.
Yeah, that's true. Brother. I remember that.
Yeah. Because I just remember like the whole week I was like, I hope I get paired up with that dude. That dude just seems cool.
Yeah.
Like I normally with the podcast or I would wear bottom grills. Just enough like people wouldn't really see it, but to me it was like a gold electrical amplifier.
Yeah.
But I have to imagine that the dreads are a conversation starter.
Big time.
I'm assuming a lot of these parents are not familiar with that stuff. How does that ever come up?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, this big picture of what we do here, right? So, I'll get to that specific question in just a hot second. Like, the kids aren't coming from backgrounds that really touch on what we're doing here. Like, they're coming from the city. There's some kids coming from farms. We have a few dozen countries represented, and like it's super diverse. And the families are aware that we get into heart connection stuff, but the kids are coming here to play, right? They're coming here to go wakeboarding, like go climb trees, throw axes, do ancient weaponry, all of these great things that we do. But we're doing these things just to elicit responses within their bodies that then we can talk about and process together and like connect the feelings and the thoughts. And
which people don't realize that like that's how it started and why it lasted.
Right.
Sorry.
Right. So like my dreads for me, it started really perking my interest a few years ago when I really started to look at energy differently. My scientific background created almost a monocular, if you can imagine that. Like, this is the way that science is. This is this affects this, and it leaves out lots of things. But the more that I got to experience, I hate to call this non-traditional. It's not non-traditional, but like things like breath work, meditation.
Outside the norm.
Outside the norm, yeah. At least in our culture.
Right, because it is more traditional, technically speaking.
Yeah, it's older. I mean, it's old as all get out. So the idea of an energy buffer or soak where, my hair helps me helps me in meditation to control my energy, my energetic signature, and the flow of energy in my body. So the way that I wear my hair, or if I'm storing energy, like this is a piece that the dreads relate to, that kind of woo-woo side, that I was super anti woo-woo until I met my assistant and former partner, Cagney. She broke me into some pretty woo-woo stuff with my first real breathwork thing a number of years ago, and it blew my mind to the point where it's like there's so much more to this than I could have ever imagined. And at the time, I almost felt like it was being hidden from me because I'm 10 years in college, deep in science, moving into pharmaceuticals, and it's like they're just like no, keep looking this way. No. This is how it works because we only want this molecule and that molecule to do this, because that's how we get to control shit. Whereas being here in the woods and some of the stuff that you experienced with me the other day, like, we don't need any of that shit. And this is knowledge that's been around forever. It's just within our culture, it's been kind of dumbed out or trained out of us because of the control pieces. So these families, they come to us like they're thinking that they're just gonna like potentially just have fun, and
traditional summer camp.
Yeah, then their kids come home and they're hugging them, they're talking about all the things, they're sharing their emotional selves, they're looking them in the eye, they're being like fully present in life, and they're like, we had cacao, it made me feel this way, you should try cacao with me, or we did meditation every morning, or we did cold plunges, let's do cold plunges together, it'd be so fun, mom. Or
yeah,
and it changes their family,
and there's hard science backing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we're doing these exercises and these things, and I'm inviting the kids to do these things. It's not like a, hey, you're doing this with me, right, we're inviting so that they get to experience. And then after they experience for themselves, then we talk about it, and they share their pieces. And then I might ask some questions, or we might kind of probe into things. And then within their questions, I also am bumping the science. Like, I'm able to inject the scientific side that gives them another perspective to understand why they feel immediate results for the whole day after cold plunging in the morning.
Which is super important. That's where the spiritual community misses, is like the science on how it happens is important.
Yeah.
And to a lot of people, that's the only way to really get them engaged with super important things that will help everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, ignoring why it makes you feel a certain way, or the long term or the emotional qualitative effects is super important too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's awesome. I mean, me and Danielle can be more impressed. Like, you're a great bridge for it because of your background and your knowledge.
Thanks, brother.
Of course, and like your ability to just navigate like seamlessly, right? It's very nonchalant. Like, you're walking with Sean, he's like, all right, this is this plant, this is jewelweed. It grows next to poison ivy, and like, which to me was super interesting. So Sean was saying to us, oftentimes, not every time, but oftentimes, the antidote, so to speak, grows by the sickness, lack of a better term. How has that, just learning that, and when actually, before we get to that, how did you get to learning this stuff? Because I don't think you learned that in college, or did you?
Not all of it. There were pieces. So I went to school for the like deep chemistry side, deep biology side.
Which is why you're explaining like the chemical process and making of the fire,
right?
Which was actually super interesting to me, because I love the science of it.
That's true. I didn't even. Right. Yes. I mean, I tend to break things down. It helps people generally. You know, it's like if we can teach the same thing 3 different ways, or be teaching it with 3, like explaining 3 different ways all at the same time, then they retain it better. So
does that create more neural pathways?
Yeah. And it also does relate a little bit to learning styles too. So like keywords, but the more neural pathways, the neurogenesis that you can get going to the same place, it's going to stick, right? If you've only got one string holding up a clothes, one string holding up a rack of coats, it could break.
Yeah.
If you've got 3 or 4, it's going to hold, right? Like the weight of all of the other crap that we're learning all the time that they're getting like shoved down their throat. Like, you got 3 or 4 strings going that way, they're going to retain, right? So, I got a little off track, but
no, you're good. I was asking. I do that to people all the time. Sorry, but I get like curious in the start of the answer before it. So I was asking, how did you get to this background knowledge?
Right. So I'm an Eagle Scout. I spent a lot of time with my father and with other men and boys in camp kind of environments as a child, all the way back to kindergarten. My father was military pilot. He was a pilot in the Air Force, flew B-52s, was
that's dope.
Yeah, super dope. And was, deep. He was a flight instructor and had a huge piece of survival.
He's a flight instructor?
Yeah,
so can
for
you fly?
The Air Force. Yeah, I'm a pilot. Yeah,
that's sick. All right.
Yeah.
Add that to the cap.
Yeah, I've been flying. I mean, I started when I was younger than I'm allowed to log hours, because my dad was a pilot, so we flew everywhere.
They worked for the Air Force. So who's going to say anything?
Right. So, but then when I turned 14, started logging hours, went through the whole bit, and yeah, I've had my pilot's license longer than my driver's license. So, but so eventually I did go back to school for outdoor education, right? So after pharmaceuticals, literally was like, fuck this.
So you went back to school after pharmaceuticals?
Yeah, so I went back to a really intensive program.
So you were heavily schooled.
Heavily schooled.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, and I wanted to work outside. I wanted to be doing adventure sports. I wanted to be, at the time, I wanted to really just like soak into the adrenaline junkie space. Like, I was jumping out of planes at the time. I was flying. I was, planes and helicopters, riding motorcycles, racing motorcycles. Like, I was in it, like, at that time in my life.
How old are you?
41.
All right, so you're all in on whatever you're doing.
Oh, I'm all in.
Because to get all that done at that age, yeah.
I'm all
at
in.
a high level.
I'm all in.
Yeah.
And I hear that all the time. I mean, that's something that Cagney says even. I mean, it's like...
That's the way to be, though.
I'm all in. And I'm all in until I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm 100%, like, I'm not going to go more. Like, I could say I'm 110, which is real. But I'm all in. But as soon as I'm not, it's cut. Like... I turn and I just walk away and I move to the next thing.
I think that's easier for people that go all in. I usually go all in on things, and things that I go all in on, when it's time to move on, it's easy.
Right.
Because you gave it your all.
Right. That's exactly why. Yeah. I mean,
on things I haven't, those are the things where I'm like, oh, should I go back to it? It's like, because I didn't give it my everything.
Right. Yeah. And this was a mindset shift that I did have a number of years ago, but to finish that first piece, like, I did go back to school. I got rock climbing certification, like my instructor certification to guide, to rock climb, to paddle, to do challenge courses, like kind of anything that you could imagine outdoors. To teach kids how to ride dirt bikes. I mean, literally fucking everything. To the point where there's so many certifications at that point in my career, I couldn't afford to renew them every year because they were all $100 or whatever, and it was just fucking stupid. Like it was $10,000 worth of renewals every year. It just was nuts. And that started the ball rolling. And I picked up some mentors. I learned tree ID in school and some plants. So like I could tell you 15 trees by the bark and leaves and all that at that time. But over the last 10 plus years, 15 years really, I've been picking stuff up because it matters. Like I have an itch and I don't want to put Benadryl on it, or I don't want to put a chemical on it. So what can I do? I go grab plantain. I use jewelweed. I'm looking for plants, remedies, things that are more natural for my body, because I've noticed the difference when I'm able to stay away from pharmaceuticals or away from things that are synthetic, or potentially, in some ways, something that helps me think about it is like I love the Thanksgiving. For me, like what I would say is a traditional Thanksgiving meal. Like I love cranberry sauce. I love stuffing. I love turkey. I love the gravy. I hate cranberry sauce by itself. Like, I don't like stuffing by itself. Right. Like, pharmaceuticals are like our traditional way of medicine. Like, they're picking, they're like hitting the dartboard, and they're just getting that one spot. So, like, it's like only eating stuffing, where all of those other things are beneficial to you in some way and kind of seal the deal in a bigger picture way that it overall is just healthier for you, because it's helping your body. It's not just masking something. It's not like putting a Band-Aid on it. It's actually healing.
So with your background in chemicals and biochemistry, my view, and it's ignorant, my father is a PhD in it, but I'm ignorant in it. My view, though, is whenever you take something to fix something, like a pill, there has to be some kind of side effect.
I mean, if you listen to any commercial, like there's a reason.
There's and the side effect is always like
right?
Something terrible. It's like depression. Side effect could be suicide. It's like that sounds like it makes it worse.
Right. There's always going to be side effects, right? So, anything. I would say that generally, when we're as natural as we can be, this day and age, it can be really hard actually, because everything else is so accessible. But the more natural we can be with our remedies, eating whole foods, like just treating food as medicine in general. Like it doesn't matter if you only eat meat. It doesn't matter if you only eat vegetables. It kind of doesn't matter as long as you're eating whole and eating real. Like you notice
define whole.
Well, so you notice the difference like vegans and meat eaters will argue all day long because they're like, nope, I started this and I feel great. And then this other party, the same thing. They're like, oh, I only eat meat and I feel great. And the thing that they're leaving out is like, okay, so they're not eating the canola oil, or they're not eating the bullshit. Like they're not eating the stuff that is going to like poison your body.
Corn syrup,
yeah, like the fucked up shit that's nasty, the processed stuff. So like, yeah, they both are going to feel great because they're not eating the shit that's dragging them down. So natural remedies or whole foods, things that come out of the earth, things that are not like spliced apart and you only get pieces of, it's gonna interact in your body like medicine. That's it. Like we eat whole foods because ingesting good healthy food, you stay healthy because it is medicine. It's like medicine. So it keeps the side effects at bay, right? Like if you're taking pharmaceuticals, there's always going to be a side effect.
Like always.
Always.
And why is it that the plants don't have? Because the plants change your chemical makeup too, right?
They can, yeah. But our body, they're not shooting for bullseye all the time, okay. Right? So the pharmaceuticals are hitting single pathways, which might goof up some other things, whereas these plants are filling all of the different pathways that could be in the way, or could be.
The plant handles the side effects.
Yes, the plant tends to handle the side effects. Like there's always exceptions. Like nothing is ever complete one way or another, black or white. But it generally is that way. Like it covers side effects.
So how do you, with your background in it, obviously I'm assuming time and a place for everything. If somebody needs pharmaceutical, like how do you
Right.
guys handle that
Oh,
when
big time.
kids
I mean,
have?
like so today, somebody you were there, you walked in, somebody cut themselves
Yeah, I
doing
saw that. Yeah, yeah.
doing knives, right? And it happens. Like it's actually important. Like it's a huge piece of the learning process to injure yourself. It's like, if you fall, you're gonna learn a lot faster
I saw her
than if you
after
don't.
she was super proud of her red
Yes.
bandage.
Yeah, so she had to go get stitches, right? In that situation, she needs some pharmaceutical help, right? They're going to inject some Novocaine, uh, even antibiotics. Like there's a time and a place, 100%. But generally, that's the extreme. So by the time we get there, by the time we get to level like 7, 8, 9, 10, then the pharmaceuticals tend to be the good choice to go with because it's going to bring you down potentially back to 7, and then you can start injecting the plants.
That's what I was assuming. Is the pharmaceuticals are like the last step.
In my opinion,
And
that's my opinion. Yeah, definitely.
Because my friend and I were talking about this a while ago, and again, I don't know anything. I'm a novice. But Danielle and I want to get to the land. We want to learn. We know we're novices, so we're coming to places like this.
Right.
But my view and my novice understanding is, we'll say 60, 70% preventative is going to be whole foods, how you live, are you losing weight, are you taking care of yourself?
Yeah.
And then Western is great for reactive.
Right.
And if you look at our societies, both societies, right, neither's perfect. It makes sense, right? Like, we do have these incredible technologies. We have these awesome things. And, like, if somebody does have a progressive cancer or something like that, like, Western hospitals are great.
Yeah, do it.
But if they're going in there for something minor and they're getting drugged up and told that they have ADD, then Western, society
on ADD, Jesus Christ,
is terrifying.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I mean, I had ADD as a kid. I mean, shit.
That's why you've done so many things.
And that's, I mean, man, that feels like a whole other life.
So, did your parents, I hate to use the term, but did they drug you with the ADD?
Well,
And guys, if your kids are taking stuff, like, we get it, you're trying your best, but let's just be open-minded.
Right, open-minded, 100%. So I took stimulants, absolutely. But I also, I'll back up. So we moved around all the time. My dad was a pilot in the Air Force. We're always getting reassigned, even at different points where we would be stationed somewhere for 4 years. We might live 6 months somewhere and then come home for a little bit and then another 6 months somewhere else as my dad was doing different things. So by the time I got into high school, there's a lot of puzzle pieces missing from my education because it was state to state. Everybody's curriculum was just slightly different, so that I struggled. We get into high school. By the time I hit junior year, I was second to last in my class.
Which is wild, because you're the most educated one of the most educated people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, I mean, it's traditional school, man. Like I had fallen behind, and I was in the cracks, right? I was the lazy kid. I was the troublemaker. I was the jerk off. Like I'll never forget my fucking biology teacher. Jesus, he hated me. Like,
which is hysterical if they could see what you're doing with biology
right now. Right.
You should send him a video.
I know, it'd be so funny. But so my parents constantly were just like, what the fuck? Like I didn't know this at the time. It was something that they as parents were doing. The school just didn't want to test. They didn't want to help. They didn't want to be a part of things. They just kept saying it's because I was lazy, and using teachers' reports. And this is not a slam on teachers at all.
No, we both were in the education system.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the system is fucked. Not the teachers. Teachers are amazing, but the system is fucked. So eventually, they tested me on their own. They took me to a place called Institute for Learning and Development, and I worked with a guy, Dr. Hallowell, at the Hallowell Center in Massachusetts, and Susan Tabor. Never forget these people. At the Institute for Learning and Development in Lexington. And we did educational therapy for the summer between junior and senior year. I went like fucking every day, ride my little scooter, multiple towns over to just sit and take what felt like stupid fucking tests at the time, like trying to really get a handle on my process and the ways things worked. And then she started injecting the pieces that she was recognizing that I was missing. Came back, fucking honor student, senior year, like amazing. But during that, I also was on stimulants. Like they were doing it both, like congruently. So I was doing educational therapy and taking Concerta, methylphenidate.
Is that like Adderall?
It's kind of like Adderall. Yeah, it's different, but yes, it's a stimulant.
I've had a love-hate relationship with Adderall.
Yeah. Adderall was something I tried, but we leveled on Concerta. The side effects were lower, but yeah. So I went through that, came back, and I blew it through the roof. I mean, I ended up I went nuts senior year. Like I aced everything. I was killing it. Things were amazing. I did inspirational speaking and talked to families for a few years after this with Harvard Continuing Ed, who was funding a study with Dr. Hallowell that he was doing, basically trying to figure out how to remove the pharmaceutical piece from these learning difficulties, and showing that educational therapy is as effective, if not more effective, than dropping the pill. And it was amazing. You know, it's like I traveled around the world for a short period of time, talking to families, talking about kids, about just my experience and my story.
180.
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, I went from the, like, I'm fucked, like, I'm stupid. I had that. I was on the downward spiral, too, to I can do anything, right?
Is that what made you want to get into education? So let's revisit, like, what is your background in the education world? So you went to pharmaceutical world.
Yeah, pharmaceutical world, and then
you got your degree there.
And then I went back into education in the outdoor realm, so experiential education, adventure-based education. And I did that because I had realized, being inside all the time, how impactful nature was for me growing up, like through my life. And at the time, I didn't have any insight onto who I wanted to work with. It was an easy outlet to be able to think about working with kids, adults, everybody, just bringing people outside. At the time, being able to instruct and teach these kind of adventure-based activities, which is really exciting, and I thought was a way to get people out, like to remind people that going rock climbing on a Friday night is more fun than going to the bar. Right? And you get more connection with your friends and yourself, like it's truth instead of numbed. And and I saw results right away. Like I started pushing. You know, the first couple of school groups that I worked with, I definitely started in more of an at-risk youth space. And you know, I'd spend a week with kids that I'd get this long list from their instructors or their group homes or wherever, and like, this kid is gonna fucking, like, just light it up. It's gonna be the worst ever. You just be real with him. Like, right from the start, I saw how these kids were profiled and how we had put them into containers where, when I just let them be and gave them a big container to play in, and we, got to do some kind of cool stuff that pushed their limits, it was immediate results. Like days, even a day sometimes. Like in the morning, a kid would be going nuts, and then at the end of the day, he's giving me a hug. And
it's incredible to think about how many lives, obviously the ones that end up meeting a Sean. I like to think that Coach Gerasi, when I was a teacher, I did a whole thing on like different forms or approaches to education. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking about myself in business. This one person tried presenting me. I think he told people I was a devil worshiper, which is fucking crazy. But like, yeah, dude, it's hysterical because if anything, I'm like one of the most like spiritual people I know.
Right.
But because I would always call him out on lying, and I would lose my shit. And like, if I have one trigger, it's lying.
Right.
Because I feel like I have a thing where I noticed that.
Yeah, you saw that.
Yeah. So, but that's like my one trigger.
Yeah.
Like almost everything else, like whatever. I don't give a shit. Talk about me. Like I don't care. But like lying, I don't know why, but I don't react well.
You hear the kids screaming?
Yeah. It's confirmation.
That means it's dinner time.
Oh, nice.
It's
And-
totally confirmation.
right?
Jesus.
But like, luckily, I am so just bold and audacious that I like forced my way into meetings
Right.
that I wasn't supposed to be in, and then I got to know these higher ups,
Mm,
and they were like, "Oh no, Luke's cool as shit."
right.
Like, wait a minute, what? And then it
Right.
ended up backfiring on the other guy. I wonder how many people's lives. And if you have kids, and maybe your kid is getting diagnosed, like, or maybe you're the one diagnosing them, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have a trigger that they're not articulate enough to
Right.
express, right? Like, if you
Right.
like you just said, because that made me be like, oh shoot, like, I wonder how often that happens.
Mm-hmm.
You have to see, and you don't have, obviously no names, but give some examples of kids just transform here.
I mean, that's countless. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds, literally every season. I mean, just last week we had like I said, we're really diverse. You know, there's incredibly affluent folks. There's folks from different countries, and we also have campers that are custody of the state. And you know, the last couple of weeks we had one student that was custody of the state that came with his long list of watch out fors, and this is going to happen, and you know, he got put into a box, and his box was really small and packed so tightly that he couldn't move, right? So every time he'd get into a new space or a new situation, like, he'd have to try to break out of it because his box was so confining. Where coming here and seeing the light in his spirit and recognizing the value, and then also finding ways to help him see the light of his spirit and the value that he brings to all of us, to our community. You know, like day 2, we do beads here, like leadership beads, kindness beads.
When they earn a certain skill.
They earn certain skill. You know, day 2, this kid, I mean, not because of me, and not like they don't know the box that he's in, not all my staff, because it's not important information. I'm not going to profile like that and try to spread that kind of crap as far as
that affects how you interact.
Exactly.
And the way somebody approaches you is how you react with them.
Right. So, kindness bead, leadership bead, like just in 2 days, this kid goes from like the crazy pent up, like,
oh, you got a kindness
energy.
Bead? That's
and
funny.
Day 2, he's waking up in the morning and helping people, like, move stuff around, or like bringing kids down to the fire circle, or like helping in the kitchen. Like, what can I do? Like, this is so, you know, like, I'm here, let's work together.
He's probably so excited that somebody's allowing him to find himself.
Right.
The way you guys have the kids interact, I don't know if it is based off, I don't know if I said it to you or Ken. It reminds me of what I imagine a Montessori school looks like.
It's pretty similar. Yeah, it's pretty similar.
So you give them their structure, but then you give them autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to some of the counselors, and they said that was their favorite part.
Yeah.
Like John said, he works with a lot of kids and different things, and he said this is his favorite one because the kids have autonomy, but they're structured. It's not just straight chaos.
Right.
How did you come up with that approach? So do you want to kind of explain to them like how their days look and like how you came up with the approach of that?
Sure. So in the days, our schedule has definitely had iterations over the last decade.
Correct.
But we wake up at 7 a.m. Every morning. They go to mindfulness of some sort at 7:10. So they wake up, have enough time to breathe, and potentially get a bathing suit on if they're going to cold plunge. But there's cold plunge, yoga, sit spots, journaling, movement, which is like some sort of physical thing. Some kids go running, some kids are lifting weights. From 7:10 till roughly 7:40, 7:45. So they're waking up in a way that isn't shocking their nervous system. I mean, getting in a cold plunge is definitely a shock in one way, but it's not that alarm. Oh no, we have to get going. Like, our day has started. It's like this kind of gentle entrance into the day.
Well, what's interesting is we just stayed with these guys that have a program called 0 to 100.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going through the science of like the cold plunge. And it's like the importance of it is like it shocks the vagus nerve, and then it shows like it's actually like a harsher shock, but it's a controlled, voluntary, where the alarm hits you and then it gets away.
Right.
Whereas like the cold plunge, you enter it, and again, how you enter it, what they were saying is how you enter it is how you receive. So you enter it, you control the breath.
Right.
All right, cool. I'm in control of this.
Right.
or I'm surrendering to this, and we're working together,
Right.
and I'll be fine. Okay, cool. I surpassed my limit. So they
Mhm.
overcome probably the worst thing of the day, like at least from a
Right.
physiological stress
Right away.
factor.
Yeah.
Boom. All right, cool. I got
Right.
this.
Right.
So the kids here, they wake up, they have a cold plunge, and then you guys did like a circle thing
And,
this morning.
yeah, and then we do circles. So we bring everybody together to sing a song or two, connect with each other, like convene as a community. And then after we convene as a community, then we eat food together, almost always together unless kids are off on trips. Coming together for food is it's a ritual, right? It's sacred.
It's one of the
Like,
most human,
yeah, like
sacred things.
This-
In America, family dinners have more or less disappeared, which is insane.
gone. Yes.
I'm so thankful to my parents. No matter what, dinner at 6:30.
Yeah.
Like my ass was home,
Right.
and it's like a cool thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so wild. So after we eat, then we again come together and we do community meeting, which kids are getting to figure out what they're doing for the day. Like they get to pick choice, which is coming later in the day. I'll mention that in a second. Singing more songs, because being active and singing, getting that voice out, has a real serious effect on joy, and it's and depression. Like it really can help bring people back into that space.
And again, it's not woo woo.
No, it's
That's
not.
hard.
It's hard.
Neuroscience.
Yeah, there's a reason. I mean, I hope I'm able to plug different names, but like you go to Tony Robbins, they have you up every fucking 15 minutes, like dance, sing. It's and that works. So it's a piece of that where
He's created a multi-million-dollar industry with that.
that's literally his tool. They don't say it, but like it's all about getting up and dancing and moving and singing and screaming. At least in my opinion, when I went, which I thought it was awesome.
It's not knocking it. Yeah.
No, not at all. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, we're using it.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna go back.
Yeah.
I'm going back this year. I'm bringing my sister. I'm bringing other friends.
Nice.
Like, I'm gonna do it. Like, do it again. So after a community meeting, then they go off to skills. So there's 4, 5 skills in the morning that are related to our guild system. So earth, air, fire, water, and ether. That is the basis of our curriculum. So they're learning the same skills throughout the week, so that when we get to the end of the week, we can do a test of sorts, and that's when they can earn certain beads. They become proficient and get to up level in autonomy. So if somebody's doing a skill with fire, they get their fire bead, then that means that we no longer have to be over their shoulder in some ways. It's like the carving.
Okay, cool.
They get to up level, and eventually they get to up level to rover, which means that they can go wherever they want to go. We need to know where they are, but they get to build multi-story forts out in the woods. They get to cut down trees. They get to like really integrate, and they also get to teach. Like they get to share, bring groups, and like dig into the really anything they want to. But that's a pretty extensive system. So we do skills. After skills, that's just morning activity time. We do lunch. And then after lunch, they go to rest hour. Every day is rest hour at some point after lunch, like siesta.
I love that because I'm a napper.
Yeah,
I love that nap is built in.
totally built in. Like I don't get to nap during the summer, but everyone else, it's like chill time. It's important.
In my
Siesta.
business, I ask everybody to take a nap.
Good.
Like I have, I've been told by the CEO or the VP of my company and stuff like that. And again, $1 billion company.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't understand what you're doing, man, but keep doing it.
Right.
Because he's like at first they're like, I don't know, this is weird. I have like a book club. I have a library in my office. I'm doing insurance sales.
Yeah.
And I ask everybody to go to the gym and take a nap and take a walk in the sun every day.
Heck yes.
Right. Which is like very counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But we're the fastest growing team for a couple years in a row. We're not this year. We're having an off year. Which is also part of the process too. Got to go back and recalibrate. But
Right.
I'm big on naps.
Heck yeah. It's important.
Yeah.
Like reset for the day, like nap. So they do that, and then we come back for free swimming games, which is just like, again, convening as a community to play. So they're separate in these other things, but then we eat together, which is one way, but then we come after rest hour to play together. So they get to rock climb, they do pool, they might do ancient weaponry or archery or different things. Like it's just a wide
What are some
open.
examples of ancient weaponry?
So atlatls, spears,
What's
slings. So you can think of a super long arrow, like bow and arrow style. So super long arrow, 6 feet, and you have a lever or a launching device that you hold in your hand. So it holds on to the back of the arrow, the nock, and you throw it and it gives you leverage to throw.
Like a javelin?
It's like a javelin, so it gives you leverage to throw the thing like a javelin. I mean, you can. There's a lot of force, like there's a lot of energy with that. So atlatl, it's neat. Accuracy takes time for sure, but that's one example. Slings.
That's cool.
Yeah, my son Julian was really ripping with one today, having so much fun with it. But slings are great. It could even be throwing sticks. I mean, there's times where we go out and hunt rabbit, and you just have a club, basically, like a stick, where you just have to hit it. You knock it. Ancient weaponry can be any number of things. But those are a couple of examples. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's dope.
I feel like when I was a kid, I would have probably gravitated to that.
It's dope. Yeah, flu arrows, like shooting arrows up and trying to hit moving targets through the air. There's just so many things, man. It's really cool. But again, the whole point is to just give them different exciting things to then talk about, right? Because we can relate every activity back into the heart, back into the body, back into the mind.
What I was going to say is balance, too, because you bring everything back to, like, the honoring.
Always.
And, like, it's not just that aspect. Like, I think all the time I was a pretty good athlete, but I wish back then, like, yoga wasn't considered quote unquote like gay.
It was totally gay back then, man.
You know what I mean? Like,
I wish it wasn't.
Yeah, because I would have loved it.
Yeah.
But I didn't do it.
Right.
It would have made me a better football player.
Right.
Or I finally did dance with Danielle.
Hell yeah.
But, like, I mean, I would have did it to my friends if they did it. So my friends would have just tore me to pieces if I took dance class, like, back in high school.
Yeah.
And I think we're moving towards that, and it's cool, right? With like masculine guys like yourself, myself, like when we can openly be like, oh yeah, this is cool, stuff like that, and it doesn't make you less, or it doesn't make you more either. Just something I want to do.
Right, and that's totally fucking okay.
Yeah.
Right, we should be able to do whatever the fuck we want to do as long as it's not hurting somebody.
Yeah.
That we want, and be supported in it. Right? Like, fuck yeah, that's great that you want to do that. I'm stoked that you want to explore your body that way, or that you want to move this way to see if it helps with anything, or just because it might be fun. I want you to live a joyful life.
Right.
And I want you to explore every way that you can in order to create joy and fulfillment in life.
And then I noticed music is a big aspect of this camp as well.
Yeah, it is.
Which I love. Yeah. So I guess... that makes sense. I mean, I never went to a summer camp when I was a kid, but that makes sense. I think of like people sitting by a campfire.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Edward Shackleton?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I read a book about him, Shackleton's Way, when their boat was sinking in the Arctic.
Yep.
They could only bring so many things, and one of the things he made them bring was the guitar.
Right. Yeah. It's like mental health, right? Like, so sound healing. I mean, we do sound healing here.
Yeah, you guys
we
have
sound bath,
shit, yeah.
And we do things with speakers sometimes, and we do things with crystal bowls sometimes, or like a couple of different modalities. I'm hoping to build on that because I've noticed for kids in the woo space, the sound baths have been the most profound discussions that we've had. Period. In the past couple of years with the kids, the impact that they've had, just an hour in sound bath when they go into it versus when they come out of it, the most profound change. It's nuts. So playing guitar, I mean, it goes into our cells. It's something that's innate. Like music and song was how we used to tell stories, right? Like it's in our DNA. And I don't know this, and this is Sean. Just I feel it. I've not studied that, but that story piece is true. Yeah. This song is how we used to tell stories, and the stories, that was how we communicated, right? Like, song has been around forever. We can speak for a reason,
right?
So it makes sense. Like it affects us in a very dramatic way.
Do you ever have parents or anything like that reach out about the sound healing? Either interest or like, what is this?
Totally. So that what is this absolutely happens. I mean, I've had like
I didn't realize people were like averse to it, and I just found that out recently.
Yeah.
To me that just seems like a
totally
like listen to music. Why would that be weird?
Right. During staff training week we do a sound bath. The next day I had a staff was like, I'm out. Like, I mean, and it was, you could see the cringe during the sound bath even, just just wasn't open to it at all. And it happens, some people just aren't into it, but absolutely get pushback from parents. But that's only the case. Like, I get it early on, or like midweek, midsummer, when they might see a picture of it on Insta or like something in a newsletter we send home. And then as soon as they see their kids and then start talking about it, I just yesterday had 2 families ask if they can come up here after camp because of the letters that their kids sent home about the sound bath. Like, they want to come up and fucking have a double party with another family to do it together because their daughters were mind blown.
That's so cool.
Like, it.
Yeah.
So there is pushback and there is skepticism, which skepticism is super fucking important. I am a skeptic for sure.
Right, with your science background.
Yeah, but open mind. I'm an open-minded skeptic, and once they see the results, which every family, and I mean, I feel like I should put together an email list or like a contact list even, because every family talks about the change. The change,
dude,
not just for their kids, but the change for their family, period, through the year.
It would be really cool. It would be really cool, and I'm going to talk to you about this. Anyways, like, side thing I want to talk to you about.
Mm-hmm.
That I think would be really amazing. But like, on your own, I think a really cool thing of that offering, like an idea that you might be able to do and help you with, would be like writing a book or doing like a little thing on almost the feedback you get. Like,
Right.
First part could be like, this is what we do, this is the science, right? You could do the hard science of it.
Right.
And then you don't even have to explain the feelings from you. You could use the letters.
All the snippets, right.
You could be the hard science, the dreadlock hard science guy.
Yes.
And then like the skeptic parents could be the feelings aspect, which I think would be super powerful.
Right.
It would be something because I like to think, despite all the purposeful deception that does happen, I still like to think that people do mean the best. Even the people that are purposely deceiving us or distracting us, maybe in some fucked up way, they think they're doing it to help us.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, almost every time the bad guy thinks what he's doing is good.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. Yes, that's true.
And that's like
Yeah.
It's the only way I can operate.
Right.
It's like,
believe
that, because otherwise I like want war.
Right. And I mean, there is a quote. This is not verbatim, but an enemy is only someone that you haven't had an opportunity to fully understand or fully like.
It's Abraham Lincoln.
Okay, cool.
It's that guy's my enemy. I don't know him well enough yet.
Right. It's fucking true.
Yeah, he has some of the best quotes.
Right,
Abraham
like
Lincoln.
We as humans, with very few exceptions, care. Like, we do care about everyone. We do love everyone. We don't necessarily want to. So many people are afraid to admit that, but we care. And I do believe that everybody is thinking about the big picture best interest of everybody. The problem is the boxes that everybody's been put into make everyone fight.
Yeah, and it's so wild, right? Like, and like the stuff with Epstein and like all these other things, right? That comes out, and like that's fact. It's not even.
It's not. Yeah, exactly.
And that doesn't really get talked about, and it's like both sides, both parties, right? Like, I'm not focusing on one.
Right.
And I come into this thing like, how can I justify those people's actions? How can they think that's best, right? But there has to be a way in order for it to be better.
Yeah.
And like, the key is, I'll probably never interact with, or even knowingly, but maybe the ripples get to their kids and something changes.
Right.
And like, that's
the
only thing I can think of, because that shit is crazy.
Yes.
Like.
Yes. I mean, yes, it's fucking crazy. But there are exceptions to that bit. Like,
there has to be exceptions.
Might just be the fucking exception.
Those might just be like,
but it is like those ripples, right? We've talked about those ripples. It's amazing. It doesn't take much.
It doesn't take much, and the best we can do is the best we can do.
Right.
So, I mean, here at the end of another Free Game Productions, episode. Thanks for doing what you're doing, man. Thanks for letting us be here and camp out at Hickory Camp and just get to experience Camp W. And kind of come and go and stuff like that. It's been awesome, absolutely awesome, man. So much appreciated.
Yeah.
And
thanks, brother.
And thanks for taking the time out for the podcast too.
Absolutely. Yeah. My pleasure.
All right. Thank you, brother.